Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace. Stay tuned until the end for a special offer. Hello my darlings. Today's video is the first part of a two-part series where I will start another huge painting that will dethrone my previous piece as my biggest painting ever. It measures 24 by 36 inches, and in this video I'll be focusing on the figure only, which is painted over the course of 2 weeks from a live model in my art class. And sadly, due to YouTube's needlessly strict policies on nudity, I have to censor the booty, but if you'd like to see an uncensored 60-minute tutorial of this video with a color mixing demo along with hundreds of hours of exclusive content and monthly art rewards, feel free to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/happydartist. Okay, let's begin. Our teachers always encourage us to start every painting with a small poster study before we tackle a larger surface. I didn't get a chance to film me painting my study, but here is a photo of it. The poster study helps familiarize us with the pose, but most importantly, it allows us to experiment with the composition, cropping, and concept of the piece on a smaller scale that is much easier to tweak and change. For the more imaginative fantasy concepts like mine, we sometimes take a photo of our poster study and make edits in Procreate or Photoshop, combining both traditional and digital tools to iterate on our ideas so that we have a thorough blueprint for the larger final painting. You may have noticed a grid on my large panel, and that is primarily used to help me place the figure in the composition and make sure it's the correct position and size. I try to keep the grid large and simple, only relying on it to give me a general sense of how big the figure should be in relation to the environment, but still giving myself the opportunity to freehand the figure's anatomy and gesture from life. One huge hurdle I encountered with this pose was that in person, the model is standing very straight and still, but I wanted to create a more dynamic pose by forcing a contrapposto, which is where one shoulder is dropped lower and the corresponding side of the hip is raised higher. But because the pose in my painting was dramatically different from the pose I was seeing in person, I had to fill in the blanks and take my best guess at rendering the anatomy correctly. I also altered the colors and lighting to be different from what I saw in person. In person, our studio has a white overhead light that kind of resembles sunlight, and it brightly illuminates our model's warm skin tones. But in my concept, I placed the figure in an atmospheric evening setting with a bluer sort of moonlight and cooler skin tones. I wanted the piece to feel ethereal and mysterious, so I decided to try my hand at doing some color interpretation, which turned out to be quite a fun challenge. I knew I wanted the environment to be this dark, greenish bluish swamp, so I included more blues and greens into my skin tone shadows. And for the lighter values, I used less beige and more teal. In order to avoid making her look too corpsey, I incorporated some touches of pink and red into certain spots on her body, such as the elbows, ears, and hands. When I first started art school in 2021, I was used to painting quite small. At the time, my go-to sizes were 8 by 10 inches and 11 by 14 inches, with an occasional 16 by 20 inch piece that would feel gigantic. But the teachers at my school would paint these giant mural-sized pieces that were several feet tall, which was as intimidating as it was impressive. I wondered, why in the world would they choose to paint so large when it's such a hassle to prepare a large canvas, use up so much more oil paint, and take exponentially more time to render that much more detail? But as I notice my paintings start to creep bigger and bigger, I'm slowly beginning to understand the motivation to paint large. This piece has so much more room to breathe, and I didn't have to cram in little details with a micro-sized brush. And it's also just fun to create a piece of art that can fully immerse you in the painting and viewing experience. I suspect that as time goes on, I'll be making more and more of these my biggest painting ever videos, because I'll just keep painting bigger and bigger until I become just like my teachers who have to rent U-Hauls to transport their artwork. And that about wraps up today's video. Thank you all so much for watching, and please stay tuned for part 2 coming up next month, where I work more on the environment and finish my newest, biggest painting ever. And of course, you guessed it, my eternal never-ending sale is still going on in my shop, so if you'd like 20% off your order of prints and originals, just enter the code HOLIDAY at happyd-artist.com. And if you're interested in learning more about how to paint and draw, I have lots of art educational content on my Patreon page, including exclusive video tutorials, step-by-step photo tutorials, live streams, podcasts, and even surprise art gift boxes. All available at patreon.com/happydartist. I'd love to have you join my Patreon family. I wanted to quickly thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video and for supporting my channel and the art community. I've actually enjoyed using Squarespace for 4 years now to build and host my online shop and website. So whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make your next move with Squarespace. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com and visit squarespace.com/happydartist for 10% off your first purchase. Also, if you want to check out more artworks, works in progress, and just random daily artist adventures, feel free to check out my Instagram, and you can follow me at the handle @happydartist.